Welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard. I'm your host, Toku, from It's Toku TV on Twitch. It has been a long while, and Clan Collection 5 and 6 have already been out for quite some time, but I figured this is going to be a mainstay of the channel, so I've taken some time out of my failing job search to give you, the viewers, what you want. My based, red-pilled, and Vikachad takes on the new cards and supports for Clan Collections 5 and 6. Once again, we need to preface the video as well as the rest of the series by letting you know that these lists are made at face value using my skills of card evaluation. They will need playtesting to fine-tune, but I hope they will serve as a good reference point for filthy net deckers to piggyback off of. Welcome back to Clan Collection Cores. Nubatama. Alright, Nubatama. Are we supporting Hozan? Are we giving more needed help to Magatsu? Maybe more Shiranui support? Let's see here. Oh. It's a completely new archetype again. Well, will we get a new good grade 2 for Nubatama? Let's dive right in. Evil Stealth Dragon Magoroku Fugen. During your turn, for each evil decoy token you have, all of your front row units gain 5k. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and you have at least 3 tokens, all of your front row units gain a crit. Finally, when your rearguard is returned to hand from an effect, to call up to 1 token to an empty circle and then counterblast 1 to get an imaginary gift and put it on that circle. Hey, not bad at all. Another good Nubatama boss unit, but is it enough? Not being restricted to your opponent being grade 3 for the front row buff is good to push your opponent to 4, where the crit will make all 3 attacks lethal on the turn after. As for the third effect, Nubatama isn't scarce of any self-bounce effects, and it's not once per turn, so it should be fairly easy to fill your board with tokens. Something very interesting to note, and what I like about it, is that unlike Kiriel, which forces you into Protect 2, Fugen gives you a good choice between Protect 1 and 2. The way the third skill works is that if you chose Protect 1, and if you want to counterblast for that extra Protect 1, you would call 0 tokens, because if you did call a token, you would have to put that Protect 1 onto that circle, which cannot exist. But if you called 0, you gain the Protect 1, and you don't have to put it onto any circle, since you didn't call a token. It's just something to keep in mind. Now the grade 2, Evil Stealth Dragon Kage Ugachi. When placed on the Vanguard or the Rearguard circle, call up to 1 evil decoy token to rear, and Vanguard Rearguard once per turn, Soul Blast 1 to give all of your decoy token boost, and 5k. This is it. This is it. It's another good grade 2 not named Magatsu Gale. It's generic enough to go into any deck, getting a free token, giving us free 5k shield, and we wanted to pressure our opponents in the early game, Soul Blasting to make it an effective 14k column as well. Very simple, but it's very effective, especially with respect to Magoroku Fugen. 3 tokens to give 15k to the front, and then using Kage Ugachi to give the tokens boost effectively makes it 20k to the front, with a crit as well on the turn after. Finally, the grade 1. Stealth Beast Magami Zatsian Lokindago. On the rearguard circle, once per turn, retire a grade 0 to Soul Charge 1, and at the end of the battle that this unit boosted a rearguard, Soul Blast 1 to bounce both this unit and that boosted rearguard back to hand. Not bad, but also not the star player of this deck. Nubatama isn't short of self-bouncers, and the Soul Charge isn't super important in my opinion. However, it is still a way to get evil decoy tokens, which equates to getting a 10k shield back into hand, and 10k shield minimum onto the board. Let's take a look at the list I presented for this episode of Course for Nubatama. In my eyes, I think the best way to close out games is with Fuzen Kongo alongside the front row buff and crit that Fugen gives. The hardest part of this will be getting hit to 5 damage, but when that happens, closing out the game is fairly easy. While pushing our opponent to that 4 or 5 lethal damage, our other strong attacker is Yamishibuki. Yamishibuki double dips into using decoy tokens as buffers, gaining 5k for each of our grade 0 rearguards, meanwhile getting an extra 5k from Fugen's buff. It's fairly common to see Yamishibuki swing at 39k base 2 crit. Let's now take a look at our card choices and quantities. Obviously, we're running 4 copies of Magoroku Fugen. In a rewrite, it's important to get the grade 3 in solo needed for Fuzen Kongo. Speaking of, we run 2 copies of Fuzen Kongo. 1 is enough to close out games, and we run a good number of grade 3 tutors that can be bounced, so finding at least 1 should be fairly easy. In our grade 2 lineup, we run a full set of Yamishibuki. 39k 2 crit at base value is pretty cool. The bounce effect also helps play alongside Fugen as well. We also run utility in Kage Ugachi as well as the one, the only Magatsu Gale. Magatsu Gale for cycle, soul, bounce, and Kage Ugachi for tokens and giving us that token boost if we need that extra 5k power. As for our grade 1s, a lot of utility and a lot of self-bound. Of note is Sakura Fubuki. This is Nubatoma's best source of countercharge. Between Magatsuge and Sakura Fubuki, this is a column that gets nearly a damage in for effectively 0 counterblast, since Sakura Fubuki would refund it. 4 copies of course. 4 copies of Katsuri Gitsune. In other Nubotama decks that don't play with token units, Katsuri Gitsune is only ever the grade 3 tutor, but in this list, tokens are our main game plan, so he'll always be 13k. With a full back row of tokens, looking at 28k attacker is a great number to be at. We also run 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Unnen. This is our ideal ride, as any Fuzen Kongo we draw into early can become Fugen, and vice versa. It also comes equipped with a skill that lets us refill Soul, but also bounce 2, which then gets us the 2 tokens we want with Fugen. In a really stinky situation, you can use Unnen to push a grade 3 into Soul, so you have a grade 3 to Soul Blast with Fuzen Kongo. Finally, 3 copies of Magami. If we're missing Soul, Magami can convert a token into Soul, but also has a double bounce to get us 2 more tokens. So effectively, Magami is every turn it comes out, we gain a positive +1 token onto the board. Going into our trigger lineup, we've opted into 8 draw, 4 crit, 4 Hildians. Because turn 4 going forward, we're always going to have 2 crit units, I didn't want to oversaturate with crits and end up losing on hand and the ability to find pieces. Going 8 draw also gives us the option to play on protect 1 should it ever come up. We would have better discard targets against heavy retired control boards such as Kagero and Narukami, where our bigger intercepts in the tokens will just die before we can use them. As for the Heal Guardians, this is in fact a deck that needs time to scale up, so being able to buy turns through the Hildians helps us get to turns 3 and 4 safely, where we can start using our Protect 2s and tokens for easy intercepts and begin to maintain hand. As for other options to run, though restricted in the Japanese side of the game and now restricted here, Kokushi Garasu was something I was definitely looking at. With Magoroku Fugen, if we decided to not call tokens and instead just use his skill to farm and protect 1s, the turn right after, we can just blast our opponent with Kokushi Garasu. Another grade 3 I see ran commonly is Gami Gyobu. His axe skill effectively lets you burn your soul for tokens and combos really well with Magami. Basically, a copy in hand can become all the tokens you need for the rest of the game. As for some concluding statements and where I think Nubotama stands after Clan Collection, though I think Magoroku is a good level of strength, I like that its Protect 2 playstyle is very fun with the tokens and it brings in a lot of artificial tankiness. In the end, however, it is only a 3 attack deck. Yes, those 3 attacks may have crits, but this isn't 4 attacks with crits. If there's a way to have tokens to be able to attack into future support, I think that is what pushes Nubotama into relevancy. In any case, that's it from me for this episode of Clan Collection Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this and leave a comment down below because every little bit helps. This has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard. Toku out.